Most people spend their entire lives being loud. The 1% spend theirs being silent. You think power announces itself. It doesn't. You think control requires force. It never has. You've been performing, seeking approval, demanding respect, fighting for visibility, while the ones who actually run everything watch from positions you don't even know exist. They're not louder than you. They're quieter. They're not more visible. They're invisible. And that's precisely why they win. Here's what nobody tells you. The moment you start chasing recognition, you've already lost. The moment you need people to see your power, you don't have any. Real dominance operates in silence. Real control functions through absence. The psychology of the 1% isn't complicated. It's just the opposite of everything you were taught. They don't seek fairness. They don't chase attention. They don't believe in freedom. They understand something you're just beginning to suspect. The game you think you're playing isn't the actual game. This isn't about becoming ruthless for the sake of cruelty. This is about recognizing that you've been operating with one hand tied behind your back, following rules that the people beating you never agreed to. You've been domesticated into submission and told it's virtue. You've been trained to give away your power and call it kindness. You've been convinced that your weakness is actually strength. What you're about to hear will make you uncomfortable. It should. Comfort is the enemy of clarity. If you're here looking for motivation, for inspiration, for someone to tell you that you're already enough, you're in the wrong place. This is for the 1% who are willing to see reality without the filter of comforting lies. This is for those ready to stop performing and start dominating. This is for people who understand that the inner war is the only war that matters. 8 principles. No fluff. No mercy. Let's begin. 1. Control through silence. Real power doesn't announce itself. It waits. You've been taught that dominance comes from volume, from making yourself heard, from demanding respect through words. That's the psychology of weakness dressed as strength. The ones who truly control don't speak until the room has already bent toward them. Silence is the first weapon you've ignored because you were too busy filling Kong spaces with validation-seeking noise. Every word you throw into the void without purpose is a confession of insecurity. People read desperation in your need to be heard. They sense the approval addiction before you even finish your sentence. When you learn to withhold your voice, you create a vacuum. Human nature abhors emptiness. It rushes to fill it with projection, assumption, fear. They start wondering what you're thinking. They assign you power you haven't even claimed yet. I've watched boardrooms shift when one person refuses to react. The loud ones exhaust themselves performing, while the silent one becomes the gravitational center. You don't need to convince anyone of anything when your silence makes them convince themselves. That's not manipulation through deception, it's manipulation through absence. The less you reveal, the more they invest in decoding you. Your emotions leak through your mouth. Every time you justify yourself, you hand someone a blueprint of your vulnerabilities. Every time you argue back immediately, you prove you need their validation more than your own conviction. Silence forces them to deal with their own discomfort instead of feeding off your reaction. It's psychological warfare without a single shot fired. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius didn't waste breath on fools because engagement is a form of submission. When you respond to every provocation, you're admitting they control your emotional state. That's the boundary you keep breaking. Most people can't sit with silence. It exposes them. Watch what happens when you stop filling awkward pauses. They start confessing things you never asked for. They start offering concessions you never demanded. The fear of empty space makes them negotiate with themselves on your behalf. This isn't about being cold for the sake of cruelty. It's about recognizing that your attention is currency and you've been spending it like a child with no concept of survival. Every time you rush to respond, to explain, to fill the silence, you devalue yourself. Scarcity creates worth. Your voice should be rare enough that when it does emerge, it commands the room. But here's where most people fail. They confuse silence with passivity. Real silence is active. It's observation. It's calculation. It's letting others reveal their strategies while you keep yours hidden. The moment you understand that speaking is often a consequence of anxiety, not strength, you start to see the game differently. You stop performing for approval. You stop trading your power for the temporary comfort of being liked. And when you finally do speak, it's not because you need to, it's because you've decided to. That decision, that timing, that ruthlessness in choosing when to break silence, that's where control begins. 2. The illusion of fairness. You've been sold a lie. Fairness doesn't exist. It's a narrative designed to keep you compliant. They told you that if you work hard, if you play by the rules, if you're decent and honest, the world will reward you proportionally. That's the most effective form of control ever engineered, making you police yourself with moral fantasies while others operate without those chains. Every time you appeal to fairness, you're begging a system that was never built to protect you. You're asking permission from people who already decided you don't matter. The belief in fairness is the psychology of the domesticated, those who've accepted their position and now rationalize it as virtue. Look at who invokes fairness the loudest. It's never the ones winning. It's always those trying to guilt the powerful into redistributing advantage they'll never voluntarily give up. Fairness is what the weak demand when they lack the power to take what they want. It's a beautiful trap. You waste energy arguing about what's right while they're simply taking what's available. Machiavelli understood this 5 centuries ago. The prince who rules by perceived justice survives longer than the tyrant, but only because he's disguised dominance as morality. The moment you internalize that fairness is performative, not operational, you stop handicapping yourself with irrelevant expectations. Your submission to this illusion costs you everything. You hold back in negotiations because it wouldn't be fair to push harder. You don't advocate for yourself because someone else might deserve it more. You accept less because demanding more feels greedy. Meanwhile, the person sitting across from you has no such internal governor. They'll take everything you're too principled to claim, and they'll sleep perfectly well doing it. This isn't cynicism, it's pattern recognition. The world doesn't reward fairness. It rewards leverage, timing, and the willingness to act without the emotional burden of justification. Your morality is a weakness they've learned to exploit. I watched this play out in my own career early on. I'd turn down opportunities because I thought someone else deserved them more. I'd negotiate softly because I didn't want to seem unreasonable. I operated as if there were cosmic scales balancing everything out. There aren't. The people who got ahead weren't better. They were just unencumbered by the fairness delusion. They understood that resources are finite, attention is scarce, and no one's coming to make sure you get your fair share. When I finally abandoned that framework, when I stopped asking, "Is this fair?" and started asking, "Is this possible?" that's when the game changed. Fairness is a child's concept. Power dynamics are the adult reality. But here's the deeper manipulation. They need you to believe in fairness. If you didn't, if everyone operated purely on self-interest and capability, the entire social structure would collapse into chaos. So they feed you stories about justice, about karma, about how good things come to good people. They need you docile, waiting for your turn, convinced that patience and decency will be rewarded. It won't. Your belief in fairness is their control mechanism. The moment you see through it, you become dangerous. Not because you're immoral, but because you're no longer predictable. And unpredictability is what truly threatens those who've built their dominance on your voluntary compliance. 3. The psychology of submission. People aren't born submissive, they're trained into it. From childhood, you were conditioned to seek approval, to wait your turn, to raise your hand before speaking. They called it socialization. It was domestication. Every time you were rewarded for compliance and punished for assertion, neural pathways formed. Your brain learned that survival meant pleasing authority figures, that safety lived in obedience, that your value came from external validation. By the time you reached adulthood, you didn't need anyone to enforce these rules anymore. You became your own warden. That's the genius of the system. It makes you police yourself so efficiently that you never even recognize the cage. Submission feels like virtue when you're inside it. You tell yourself you're being respectful, cooperative, a team player. You frame your passivity as emotional intelligence. But watch what happens when someone challenges your boundary. You collapse immediately. You apologize when you've done nothing wrong. You explain yourself to people who have no authority over you. You shrink to make others comfortable. This isn't kindness. It's a trained response, a survival mechanism from when you were powerless that you never unlearned. The psychology of submission convinces you that yielding is noble, that dominance is crude, that asserting yourself makes you the villain. It's a beautiful trap because it feels moral. The system doesn't need force when it has your consent. Every time you accept less than your worth because you don't want to seem difficult, you're submitting. Every time you defer to someone who hasn't earned your deference, you're reinforcing their dominance and your subordination. This isn't about becoming cruel. It's about recognizing that respect without power is just begging with better vocabulary. People don't respect you because you're nice. They respect you because crossing you has consequences. The absence of consequence is the absence of boundary. And without boundary, you're not a person. You're a resource to be consumed. I've seen this pattern destroy brilliant people. They have the competence, the intelligence, the capacity for greatness, but they've internalized submission so deeply that they sabotage themselves before anyone else can. They volunteer for exploitation. They frame their own diminishment as humility. A colleague once told me she didn't apply for a promotion because she didn't want to seem too ambitious. That's not modesty. That's a woman who learned that her desires were inappropriate, that wanting power made her unlikable. The psychology of submission teaches you to fear your own potential because claiming it might threaten someone else's comfort. So you stay small, stay safe, stay suffering quietly. But here's what breaks the pattern. Understanding that authority is mostly performance. The people who dominate you aren't inherently superior. They simply never internalize the same limitations. They don't ask permission because they never learned to. They don't apologize reflexively because guilt wasn't weaponized against them the same way. The moment you recognize that submission is learned, you realize it can be unlearned. Not through aggression, not through compensatory dominance, but through the simple, ruthless act of refusing to yield when you have no reason to. That refusal, that reclamation of your own agency, that's where the real war begins. 4. The currency of attention. Your attention is the most valuable resource you possess, and you give it away like it's worthless. Every notification you answer immediately, every person you engage with despite knowing they drain you, every argument you get pulled into, that's you hemorrhaging power. Attention isn't just focus, It's life force. It's time you'll never reclaim. The 1% who control everything understand this instinctively. Whoever controls attention controls reality. They've built empires on harvesting yours while guarding their own like nuclear codes. You scroll, you react, you consume, and in doing so, you're funding someone else's dominance with your most finite resource. The manipulation is elegant because it doesn't feel like theft. Social media platforms don't take your attention by force. They architect environments where surrendering it feels voluntary, even pleasurable. Every time you check your phone without intention, you're not relaxing. You're being farmed. Your attention generates data, revenue, influence for others while depleting your capacity for deep work, strategic thinking, genuine connection. This is psychological warfare at scale. They've gamified your own mind against you, triggering dopamine responses that keep you coming back, keep you distracted, keep you controllable. The less you can focus, the less power you can accumulate. That's not an accident. When you fight for visibility, you're already losing. The desperate need to be seen, to trend, to go viral. That's the psychology of someone who believes their worth comes from external validation. Real power operates in the inverse. The ones who truly control aren't performing for your attention. They're capturing it while revealing nothing. Jeff Bezos doesn't have a TikTok. The Rothschilds aren't influencers. Attention flows up the hierarchy, never down. Every moment you spend seeking validation from strangers is a moment you're not building something that compounds. You're trading long-term power for short-term emotional relief. That's the currency exchange that keeps you poor. I made this mistake for years. I'd check metrics obsessively, likes, comments, engagement rates, as if they meant something beyond manufactured dopamine hits. I thought visibility equaled influence. It doesn't. Visibility often equals vulnerability. The more attention you attract, the more energy you expend managing that attention, defending yourself, performing for an audience that will abandon you the moment you stop feeding their appetite. Meanwhile, people building real empires do it quietly. They control attention without being its subject. They direct focus toward their objectives, not toward themselves. That's the distinction between influence and spectacle. The strategy is simple but ruthless. Guard your attention like survival depends on it, because it does. Stop engaging with people who contribute nothing to your trajectory. Stop consuming content designed to agitate you into reaction. Stop performing for approval from those who lack the power to materially change your life. Your attention is currency. Spend it only on what generates compound returns. Information that sharpens you, people who elevate you, projects that build equity. Everything else is a transaction where you're getting robbed. And the moment you reclaim your attention from those who've been exploiting it, you'll feel the shift. Not louder, quieter, not more visible, more powerful. 5. The strategy of invisibility. The truly dominant don't stand in the spotlight. They own it from the shadows. You've been conditioned to believe that power requires visibility, that influence means recognition, that mattering demands being seen. That's precisely what keeps you exposed, vulnerable, easy to neutralize. Every time you broadcast your moves, you give adversaries time to prepare. Every time you celebrate prematurely, you invite sabotage. The ones who control everything operate like apex predators in deep water. You don't see them until it's already too late. Invisibility isn't hiding, it's strategic positioning. It's moving through systems without friction, accumulating advantage while others are distracted by their own reflections. Look at how the most powerful people in the world move. They don't announce their strategies. They don't telegraph their intentions. Billionaires buy media companies quietly. Politicians build coalitions behind closed doors. Intelligence agencies don't hold press conferences before operations. Real power understands that visibility creates accountability, and accountability creates limitation. When no one sees you coming, no one can mount a defense. When your plans unfold before anyone realizes you had them, resistance arrives too late. This is why the loudest voices rarely have the most power. They're spending energy on performance that the truly dangerous spend on positioning. Your need to be noticed is the weakness they exploit. You post your goals publicly for motivation. You announce projects before completion for validation. You share your wins immediately for recognition. Each time you're handing out intelligence to people who may not want you to succeed. I've watched countless ventures collapse because someone couldn't resist telling everyone about them too soon. The attention felt good. The premature disclosure felt like confidence, but it gave competitors time to copy, critics time to undermine, and fate time to intervene. The moment you understand that silence protects strategy, you stop narrating your life to an audience that doesn't fund your survival. Invisibility doesn't mean irrelevance. It means operating on a frequency others can't detect. You're not absent. You're unreadable. You attend the meeting, contribute when it serves you, extract what you need, and leave no clear impression of your full capabilities. People can't game plan against what they can't map. This is how you move through corporate structures, social hierarchies, competitive environments. Present but undefined, engaged but unpredictable. The less they know about your limits, your resources, your next move, the more space you have to operate without interference. Mystery is a moat around your power, but here's the discipline it requires. You have to kill the ego that craves acknowledgement. You have to accept that doing something extraordinary without anyone knowing you did it is often more valuable than doing something mediocre with maximum visibility. The recognition will come, but only after the power is secured, only after the position is unassailable, only after resistance is pointless. Build in the dark, strike in the light. By the time they see you, make sure they're already looking at something they can't stop. That's the strategy of invisibility. Not cowardice, not weakness, but ruthlessness dressed as absence. 6. The psychology of control. Control isn't what you think it is. You imagine it's about forcing outcomes, dominating others, bending situations to your will through strength. That's the amateur's understanding. Loud, exhausting, unsustainable. Real control is surgical. It's about creating conditions where people choose what you want them to choose, believing it was their idea all along. Every movement you make is calculated. Every word you withhold is deliberate. You're not reacting to the environment, you're designing it. This is the psychology the 1% operate from. They don't fight systems. They architect them. They don't demand compliance. They engineer it through incentive structures others don't even recognize. The moment you try to control everything overtly, you reveal your desperation. People resist force instinctively, push directly, and they push back. But create a framework where your desired outcome is their easiest path, and they'll walk it willingly. This is how corporations work, not through tyranny, but through making alternatives seem costly or unavailable. This is how governments function, not through visible oppression in stable states, but through bureaucratic friction that makes resistance more exhausting than submission. The psychology of control understands that humans will almost always choose convenience over principle, comfort over freedom, known suffering over uncertain change. You've been controlled your entire life without recognizing it. Every advertisement that made you feel inadequate until you purchased. Every social norm that dictated your behavior through the fear of judgment. Every career path that funneled you toward acceptable mediocrity. They didn't force you. They shaped the landscape so your free choices led exactly where they wanted. That's mastery. I once worked under someone who never gave direct orders. She just asked questions that made you arrive at her conclusion yourself. You'd leave her office thinking you'd had a brilliant insight, when really you'd been guided like a chess piece. That's control without fingerprints. But here's where it gets darker. Once you understand this, you can't unsee it everywhere. You start recognizing the invisible architecture of manipulation in relationships, in politics, in every interaction. Your friend who always plays victim isn't helpless. They're controlling your behavior through guilt. Your boss who creates artificial urgency isn't disorganized. They're controlling your priorities through manufactured crisis. The news that makes you outraged isn't informing you. It's controlling your emotional state, your attention, your vote. Control isn't always malicious, but it's always present. And those who don't recognize when they're being controlled have already lost. The question isn't whether you'll control or be controlled. That choice is an illusion. The question is whether you'll remain unconscious of the game while others play you, or whether you'll develop the ruthlessness to participate with full awareness. Mastering the psychology of control means first controlling yourself, your reactions, your impulses, your predictable patterns. When you become unreadable to yourself, when even you don't know what you'll do until you've decided, that's when you become truly dangerous. Because the hardest person to manipulate is someone who's eliminated their own emotional triggers, someone who operates from calculation rather than feeling. That person doesn't just resist control, they redistribute it. 7. The myth of freedom. You're not free. You never were. Freedom is a narrative they sell you to make the cage feel like a choice. Every decision you think you're making independently has been shaped by systems you didn't design, can't see, and wouldn't recognize even if someone pointed them out. Your career choice was selected from pre-approved options. Your lifestyle is a template you downloaded from culture. Your beliefs are opinions you inherited and mistook for conclusions. Real freedom would terrify you because it comes with total responsibility. No one to blame, no structure to rely on, no script to follow. So you accept the simulation of freedom. Multiple choice instead of open-ended, guided instead of genuine. The ones who control everything don't want you actually free. They want you thinking you're free while remaining predictable, manageable, economically productive. That's why they give you elections between candidates who serve the same interests. That's why they offer you consumer choices that all feed the same corporations. That's why they let you protest in designated zones at designated times. It releases pressure without threatening power. You're free to choose your prison cell's wallpaper, not whether you're imprisoned. And the beautiful trick is that you defend this arrangement because questioning it means confronting how little agency you actually have. Your rebellion is often just another form of compliance. You think getting tattoos, dyeing your hair, rejecting traditional career paths makes you free. But you're just selecting from a different menu of pre-approved rebellions, following a different script written by someone else. The counterculture became a product. The revolution got a logo. Even your resistance has been monetized and redirected back into the system. I watched this happen in real time. Punk rock became fashion, meditation became corporate wellness, even anarchism became an aesthetic you can buy on Etsy. The system doesn't crush opposition anymore. It absorbs it, repackages it, sells it back to you. True freedom exists only at the margins, and it's uncomfortable. It means operating without the safety of collective validation. It means making decisions that have no model, no guarantee, no community of support. It means accepting that you might fail completely with no narrative to justify it. Most people touch that edge and retreat immediately back into comfortable constraints. They'd rather have the myth of freedom than the reality of it, because the reality requires becoming someone new, someone who doesn't need permission, doesn't seek approval, doesn't require the structure they've depended on their entire life. That transformation isn't inspirational. It's isolating. But here's what they'll never tell you. The moment you stop believing you're free is the moment you can actually become free. Not through some dramatic revolution, not through rejecting everything, but through recognizing the constraints clearly enough to navigate them with precision. You can't escape a maze you believe is a field. You can't break rules you can't see. Freedom isn't the absence of control. It's the consciousness of it. When you finally see every string attached to your choices, you can start deciding which ones to cut and which ones to keep. That decision, made with full awareness rather than comfortable delusion, is the closest thing to freedom that exists. And it starts by destroying every comforting lie you've been telling yourself about how autonomous you actually are. 8. The inner war for power. The real battle isn't out there. It's in here. Every external conflict you face is just a reflection of the war you're losing internally. You want to dominate your environment, but you can't even dominate your own impulses. You want respect from others, but you don't respect your own boundaries. You want control over your circumstances, but your emotions control you. Fear dictates your decisions, anger clouds your judgment, guilt manipulates your actions. The 1% who control everything won the inner war first. They don't react. They don't spiral. They don't let external chaos create internal disorder. That's the foundation of all power, self-governance so absolute that nothing outside can destabilize what's inside. Your mind is a battlefield, and most people are losing without even knowing they're at war. Every time you hit snooze, you're surrendering. Every time you choose comfort over discipline, you're being defeated. Every time you rationalize weakness as self-care, you're collaborating with the part of you that wants to stay small, stay safe, stay controlled by circumstance. This isn't about toxic productivity or performative suffering. It's about recognizing that your internal enemy is more dangerous than any external adversary. That voice that tells you tomorrow, that convinces you you've done enough, that soothes you back into mediocrity, that's the enemy, and it wears your face. I've watched people with every external advantage destroy themselves because they never conquered their internal chaos. Brilliant minds sabotaged by addiction, natural leaders paralyzed by self-doubt, strategic thinkers derailed by emotional reactivity. The war for power isn't won in boardrooms or battlefields. It's won in the 3 a.m. moments when no one's watching, when discipline costs everything and the only consequence of failure is your own diminishment. Can you do the thing you said you'd do when every part of you screams not to? Can you sit with discomfort without medicating it? Can you face your own weakness without the anesthetic of excuses? That's the war. Everything else is theater. The psychology of this internal conflict is simple. You're fighting for dominance over your own operating system. Your emotions want immediate relief. Your ego wants validation. Your fear wants safety. These aren't bad things. They're survival mechanisms from when you were powerless. But you're not powerless anymore, and these mechanisms have become saboteurs. They're outdated software running on hardware that's evolved past them. The inner war is about updating that programming, about installing ruthlessness where there was once reactivity, calculation where there was emotion, strategic patience where there was impulsive gratification. It's about becoming the authority in your own mind instead of being governed by whichever feeling screams loudest. Here's the ruthless truth. Most people will never win this war. They'll spend their entire lives negotiating with their own weakness, making incremental progress and then backsliding, achieving and then self-sabotaging. Because winning requires something most people can't sustain: the willingness to be at war with yourself permanently. There's no peace treaty with your own mediocrity. There's no surrender where you get to keep your power. You fight until the disciplined version of you is stronger than the weak version, until your default setting is dominance instead of drift. And even then, even after years of victory, the war continues. The moment you declare it over, the moment you relax into comfort, that's when you start losing ground. Power demands eternal vigilance against your own humanity. You've seen the architecture now. The silence that commands, the fairness that enslaves, the submission you've been trained into, the attention you've been hemorrhaging, the invisibility that protects, the control that operates without fingerprints, the freedom that never existed, the internal enemy that's been defeating you since birth. Most people recognize the truth and do nothing with it. They feel the discomfort, see the patterns clearly for a moment, and then retreat back into the comforting lies that keep them manageable. They rationalize their weakness as balance. They perform the rituals of transformation without the ruthlessness required to actually transform. You're not most people, or you wouldn't have made it this far. The 1% who control everything didn't get there by accident. They got there by winning the war nobody else knew they were fighting. They mastered silence while you were seeking approval. They abandoned fairness while you were playing by rules they never agreed to. They reclaimed their attention while you were giving yours away for free. They became invisible while you were desperate to be seen. And they conquered themselves before they ever tried to conquer anything external. Watch the most dangerous trait of the ruthless mind next. You need to understand what separates those who see the game from those who master it. Write in the comments, "I see the game now." Do not write it if you don't mean it. Empty performance is exactly what keeps you controlled. The 1% don't announce their transformation. They simply stop being who they were.